Welcome one and all back to another episode of Different Strings, a guitar adjacent podcast. And this is a Music That Matters episode. We appreciate your time, effort, and ears, especially. And today, after Andrew tells us where you can find us on the internet, he is going to tell us all about the album that he chose for this episode of Music That Matters. Andrew, take it away.
Folks, find us at differentstringspodcast.com, where you will find blog posts, gear reviews, and generally just two grumpy old boomers bitching about everything.
I am not a boomer. You're not a boomer. We're Gen Xers. Come on now.
I'm sorry. Well, now, all right, with that said,
What's our album?
I think it's time for me to bring you
Hit me.
my Music That Matters. And this week, tribute to our hair metal past, Lynch Mob's Wicked Sensation 1990.
Woo! Phenomenal album.
In the pantheon of debut rock albums, this has to be one of the top. So,
well, but it wasn't really a debut album, right? Because
not for Lynch.
It's called Lynch Mob, which I think we can acknowledge is maybe not the most culturally sensitive name. But it was the 90s. But it's based around the guitar playing of George Lynch, who had he quit Dokken, or was this just a side gig for him at this point?
Oh no, shit went south, my friend.
Okay, so yeah. he and Don had split at this point.
Yeah. So George Lynch from Dokken. He was the guitar man from Dokken. Okay, right. So if you know that, then you know how great George was in Dokken. Okay,
which is like a 12 out of a 10 scale.
Yeah, dude was. Yeah, he really, and if you, again, it's in the class of 80s guitar heroes, he had to be at the top with like your Randy Rhoads, your Eddie Van Halen. He was just a monster.
Yeah.
And what I loved about him was he was wild. Like, he was wild. He improvised everything. He never wrote a solo, I don't think. Everything was in the studio, was improvised. But what I really liked about him was, if you listen to his solos and his rhythm playing, a lot of blues, a lot of pentatonic and like minor pentatonic and all that stuff. But he threw a lot of like flavor on top of that. It really, like, he brought a new sound to that, like, blues rock guitar playing. He was wild. He had wild vibrato. So instead of the traditional like shaking of your finger up and down, he would do this wild vibrato where he would literally slide back and forth over multiple frets.
Yeah, which is a big thing. I see a lot of people doing that now, and they don't even know that George Lynch pioneered that technique.
Yep. And a lot of his tremolo bar work was very Holdsworthian. He didn't dive bomb so much as he would, he would flutter, he would, lean into notes, or like, he really tasteful Jeff Beckish kind of like tremolo stuff. But all right, so here's the history of Lynch Mob and where Wicked Sensation comes from. So it's 1987. Dokken releases their fourth studio album, Back for the Attack, which featured the infamous Mr. Scary.
Mr. Scary.
One of the best guitar instrumentals to ever get recorded. I mean, maybe 30 guitar tracks. If you listen to the song, you'll hear it. And so 4 albums in, and this album played a significant role in both their success and then their demise.
Yeah.
So there was already tensions in the band for years, because George was a rock guy and Don Dokken he wanted to go in a more commercial direction. Yeah. And they were both Don Dokken.
Everybody wants to make money.
Right. And Dokken was the singer. And since it had his name, he had to, I'm a guitar player, so I'm going to take George's side here. George wanted to go in a heavier, bluesier direction, more guitar driven. And Don wanted to go in another direction. And so tensions were high. By the end of this album, it was like, we're done. Like, that's it. So, in fact, I don't even think Mr. Scary was meant to be an instrumental. I believe, if I recall correctly, they gave it to Don and he couldn't do anything with it, literally. So George is like, fine, F you, I'll do something with it. And then
Yeah.
he birthed one of the greatest rock songs to exist. So they break up.
I can't even imagine Wicked Sensation with lyrics. Like, take the
Mr.
melody,
Scary.
take the,
Mr. Scary.
sorry, Mr. Scary. Take the lyrics out, or take the melody out, the melody line out.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine it with lyrics.
I know. I know. I know. So George, the band breaks up. Like the band, it's not like Dokken continues. I think Dokken did continue with another. I want to say that maybe, I don't remember if, I don't care what happened to Dokken after George Lynch. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
George goes off and forms Lynch Mob. I believe he took, so he took Dokken's drummer, Mick. So Mick comes with
Brown,
him. Yeah. Now, it's a shame they didn't have Pilson on this album, because Pilson's a great singer. Probably why they didn't, because they didn't need him, because they got a different singer, Oni Logan.
Yeah.
So anyway, they formed Lynch Mob, and this, Wes, do we even have to talk about how great this, from rock perspective, this album has some of the tastiest riffs, leads, and tones ever recorded in rock.
Yeah. It's a fantastic album. It's like Wicked Sensation is the culmination of the entire hair metal era.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say hair metal, I don't say it derogatorily.
Mm-hmm. Not
right?
you.
Wicked Sensation was the absolute peak.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it was grunge.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't going to get, that's the real reason. That's the real reason grunge got huge, is because nothing was going to be better than Wicked Sensation.
Yeah. It was like they put the cherry on top. We're done. Like, we're out. We're passing the torch to you now. This did come out in 90. You were right. And the second Lynch Mob album, unfortunately, was not so good. There was no following up this album. It's perfect.
Well, and they say, of course, right, that you have your whole life to write your first album, and then you have 10 to 13 months to write the follow-up.
Yeah, I mean, good point.
That counts when you leave a band too, because I'm sure George had all this stuff built up inside him, just like George Harrison did when the Beatles broke up.
Yes, I firmly believe the reason this album is so good is because A, he had a point to prove, and B, these were the songs that Don wouldn't let him do, and George had years to like craft them.
Yeah. Oh,
and he was just angry.
Yeah, there's no way. Yeah. He absolutely, if he quit Dokken and then came out with a shit album, his career was over.
That's it. Yep. I agree. This album actually enabled every album after it. Yeah. And look, I love George. I don't like anything he's done since this.
Not even KXM?
That's the exception.
Okay. All right.
I can tolerate.
We can still be friends.
Yeah, I can tolerate KXM because he's not the star of the show, to be honest. It's Doug and Ray. I'm just saying, George is good on those albums, but Doug and Ray, man, Ray is those drums, and it's Doug. It's Doug Pinnick from King's X. He can do no wrong.
Yeah, and George Lynch has done, I don't know if you know this, but he's done 2 albums with Michael Sweet from Striper.
I did. And you like Striper.
Those are good albums too. I do like Striper. All right,
I'll have to check them out. So here's the thing about this album. Every song is killer. They all slap. I think they're first of all, they drip blues. They have that bluesy like
swagger.
Yeah, they have that. Yeah. Some of them even have that 12/8 feel to them. Like, like All I Want has that, it has a 12/8 feel to it. The tone, dude, he's okay. It's classic, George's classic Marshall sound.
Right. And he played JCM 800s. Am I correct in saying that? He did not.
No, they're super leads. with a tube screamer in front.
Oh, didn't you have a super lead?
Quiet now. I sure did, actually, but no tube screamer. But so George had an old, and has, like, he still has it. He has an old 70s, I don't know the year, super lead, coupled with a tube screamer and a 412 Marshall cabinet with 25-watt greenbacks. That's
the speakers must constantly be on the edge of destruction.
I know. Well, there's four. Luckily, there's four of them. So that was his rig for lots of stuff. Like his Marshall tube screamer rig was like his rig. It sounds very different album to album because he would experiment with different things, but mostly that was his rig.
Gotcha.
On this album, he still used that for one rhythm channel, like he's left and right, and for all of the solos. But apparently this was the first year he used an amplifier that was very new for 1990. It was called the Soldano SLO 100.
Oh yeah. Those are fantastic amps.
Yeah. So imagine this tone: Soldano on one side, Marshall on the other, doubling his rhythms.
Excuse me, I'll be in my bunk.
Exactly. This one time at band camp. So that was his tone for this record, and the Marshall was a solo tone. And I think Max Norman produced or was behind the board. And back then, he was a rock guy. That's, he was good for getting tones. Anyway, long story short, this was a great
Max
album.
Norman producer. You got that?
Yeah. So really one of the best albums of, like Wes said, it's the pinnacle of hair metal. Like, it's like it was their swan song. Like, we're done, we're out. And yeah, grunge came right after this, and arguably we were not going to get another, and we didn't get another good Lynch Mob album. Oni was a drinker, and
that's too bad.
Yeah, and so they didn't get Oni back. And yeah, it's a shame that they couldn't. I mean, hey, look, they left us this gift, so they can do no wrong. But it was the only, in my opinion, that was the only good Lynch Mob album. But it was one of the greatest guitar albums to. And the funny thing is, this album, it starts off with great songs. There's maybe a little filler in the middle, which are still okay, and then it goes out with a bang. The last couple songs on this record are classics. For a Million Years, long solo, and beautifully done. And then Street Fighting Man, which is just straight up Mr. Scary 2.0.
Gotcha.
With vocals.
My favorite song is She's Evil, But She's Mine.
Yeah, that's a
good
one.
That song. Yeah. I'm looking at Max Norman's credits, and this Wicked Sensation was really kind of towards the end of his career. He did Wicked Sensation, and then he did Megadeth, Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia, and Hidden Treasures, which, as far as I'm concerned, was the last great Metallica or Megadeth albums.
Oh, Marty albums.
Yeah. And then everything after that, which is not a long list, is junk. But before that, it's a bunch of albums that I had and more that I didn't. The Dangerous Toys eponymous album in 89. He Armored Saint, Delirious Nomad in 85. 3 Loudness albums. Loudness is a Japanese hair metal band, just a fantastic band. Savatage, Y&T, and he did the first 4 Ozzy solo albums.
So no stranger to good guitar players, that Max Norman.
Yeah, he did Blizzard of Oz, Diary of a Madman, Speak of the Devil, which was like the hybrid live
with Brad
studio
Gillis
album with Brad Gillis, and Bark at the Moon, which introduced Jake E. Lee to the world.
There's a class act if I ever saw one.
Yeah,
on guitar. So that's it. Wicked Sensation, 1990. Go listen to it. Go enjoy it. Go digest it. Go love it. You're welcome.
Fantastic. And I think we're gonna drop it there. Go listen to this album, folks.
Yeah, and make it happen.
Come back for the next episode of Different Streams.